Hey, what's up? What's good? Biggest gospel show here. I have a good word for you this morning. But before we get into it, I feel led for us to. Oh well, my eye is a bit swollen, but let's pretend it's swelling out of great revelation. Anyhow, before we go into this word, I hope everything is clear. I'll listen to myself later and I get to see. Let's worship in this song. You are Alpha and Omega. We worship you, our Lord. You are worthy to be praised. You are Alpha and Omega. We worship you, our Lord. You are worthy to be praised. We give you all the glory. We worship you, our Lord. You are worthy to be praised. We give you all the glory. We worship you, our Lord. You are worthy to be praised. You are Alpha and Omega. We worship you, our Lord. You are worthy to be praised. Hallelujah. Thank you, Father, for the word that you have for us this morning. May it set the blind captives free. May it give back vision to everyone who was lost. May it give back understanding to whichever person has been robbed of the enemy. And may it catapult us to our next step in faith, in life, and where we'd like us to be. In Jesus' name. Amen. Okay, so today I'm going to talk about his and not yours. His and not yours. Hallelujah. So, Song of Solomon, yes, chapter 1, verse 4 says, "Draw me away, we will run after you. The king has brought me into his chambers. We will be glad and rejoice in you. We will remember your love more than wine." The king has brought me into his chambers. That's Song of Solomon, chapter 1, verse 4. Last year, a friend of ours in our prayer group called the 200, we meet every 6 to 7 a.m. If you're interested, I can share the link, I think, anytime. Hey, that rhymed. I can share the link, I think. So, COVID was, she went to visit, she had a child, and then she has been abroad the whole time, and so she decided to go and visit her in-laws. We call them in-laws, not in-laws, in-laws, to show the grandchild to the grandparents. And so 2 days later, they discovered that one of the father to the husband was diagnosed with COVID-19. And so just when we had sort of organized to meet, we could no longer do so because the child had to be kept safe from everything else. You get what I'm trying to say? So they went into like some sort of self quarantine. And so we could not just stay, the feelings like you're just outside, so we could not meet, and so we just let go, just did Zoom. Later in February, everything is now back to normal, and she could host us now for our prayer meetings. And so we come, But when we come, we stay in the compound and we do not enter the house because the child is inside the house. Then about 2 weeks ago, 1 week ago, we go back and then her compound is being redone. Paspalam has been planted, and so the only option we had was to enter the living room. Now, when we enter the living room, that's where the only option we have to pray from the lounge, and the child now is taken to the bedroom or the rest of the house, and the child is being taken care of by the grandmother, and we're praying. So at that point, as I was praying, the Lord revealed this thing of the Song of Solomon. 1 verse 4 came to mind, where he says, "He has brought me into his his chambers. The king has brought me into his chambers." Then, so he explained everything. So in the Old Testament, the temple, as many of you know it, it had the outer court, the inner court, and then the Holy of Holies. Now, the outer court is where people stay, like people don't cross. The inner court is where the priests come and then they do their work of preparing the sacrifice and everything. Then the Holy of Holies is where a few priests could enter once a year, like it was so you never had to just enter forward to carry out this whole remission of sins for the rest of the Israelites. And so what happened was, not just anyone could enter there. No, not just anyone. If you read Exodus, not anybody, not anyone could just enter. But then Song of Solomon 1 verse 4 is saying, "The king has brought me into his chambers." Into his chambers. Chambers are like a secret place. How can I say? It was a special place for the king, and only the king had to be there. So you can see God being this side, and it's only the priest that can approach him. But then he's saying, "I've brought you in," and God correlated this to the thing we're having of whereby we could not access the main house to my friends to pray, so we stayed outside due to the self-quarantine. Then the outside was the outer court. Then when it came to the compound, it was the inner court. Now we could have a feel or something. Now then we entered the house. We're in the sitting room. We're in the real house. Like when if rain comes, when we're outside, the rain could come and then find us. Like it didn't rain, but just like it could have happened. But now we're inside, guys. What good news! What good news! That's what the Lord has done. You do not need a priest anymore to go into the Holy of Holies on your behalf. You can go in yourself. That's why Revelations 1:6 says, "And he has made us kings and priests and kings unto God. Glory and dominion be unto him forever. Amen." When God saw that only priests were given access to the Holy of Holies, he thought, why don't I decide to make everyone a priest? Well, guys, so when you get born again, you become a priest after the order of Melchizedek, after the order of Jesus, because Jesus is our high priest. And so when he entered into the Holy of Holies once and for all, he gave us access to the Holy of Holies. So now note that it's God who drew you in. Like these things are happening even before the foundations of all. Like you have not yet been created, and then God is just taking you in. Meaning, when He takes you into the Holy of Holies, and He is holy, His holiness is just gushing and bursting and pouring over you. The picture I got was like, how you fall into a swimming pool. When you fall into a swimming pool, there is no way you are going to avoid getting wet. You get what I'm trying to say? Like you're going to get wet whether you like it or not. So in the same way, when you enter the Holy of Holies, God's holiness just sort of drowned you. You get what I'm saying? Like God's holiness drowned you, and so it's impossible. That's why the Bible says, "He who is born of the incorruptible seed cannot sin." I think that's 1 John chapter 3 or 5. You cannot sin. Like it's impossible. Just like how you cannot be dry when you're in a swimming pool. There is no way you can dwell in sin. There is no way you can just practice sin intentionally. Yet God Himself has drawn you into the holiest place on earth, into the Holy of Holies. If you're struggling with sin, any kind of sin, it's breaking right now. It's breaking right now by the illumination of this mystery in your heart. You are in him. What his righteousness now is yours because he has drawn you in. Now it has drawn you in. The peace you have is not just yours, it's his because he has drawn you into. It's not yourself who took yourself there. No, it's one thing when God draws you in, and then it's another thing when you ask, or it's another thing when, and then notice that, when Jesus died and then the veil tore into two, there was a veil between the inner court and the Holy of Holies. Like there was a separation, and then when the priest could enter, he could enter with a chain, just in case the holiness of God killed him. He would just be pulled out by a chain if he didn't come out. So that veil was torn apart because I got this image of every time these guys came to perform the ritual, God was trying to peep to see, if the gap was there for the veil, and then the priest could pass through, like as if he was trying to look for that gap, trying to look for you, trying to see if you could have a glimpse, because back then it was sort of as if it was trapped behind those curtains, but then he just reached and then just tore them into two so that you could have, like what I see is, when he tore them into two, then he just sort of jumped out and grabbed you, then he pulled you back in so that you could dwell in you are his good pleasure. Psalm 16 says, on his right hand, at your right hand are pleasures evermore. And then if you read Ephesians later, you realize that you are seated at the right hand of the Father, meaning you are a pleasure, a delight. There's this example that I have of, I don't know whether it was either Pastor Roxana or Pastor B3, one of the two. When they were preaching, they say, I think it was Pastor Roxana, when a pregnant woman is supposed to take specific stuff, right, to help with the health and everything. But then for her, she was saying when she was pregnant, she was just craving ice cream. It was not for her health, but she just wanted it because, like, she was just craving it. It was not that, it was not that kind of porridge that sort of gives you health, what keeps the baby in balance. No, she just needed it. She just craved, like she could not just be there without it. Like she was just craving ice cream, and so the fridge was loaded with ice cream, stuck with ice cream. Like it's the same thing with you. God is taking you in not because he needs you. Like how the pregnant woman is supposed to be on a specific diet and taking eggs and all that stuff. No, he drew you in just because he just wants the ice cream, which is you, to be around. Not that it's going to sort of like improve it. No, he's craving you. So he drew you in, and then he just sort of, these other things, his righteousness, his peace, his love is just shedding on you. It's just an outcome, a result of you having been drawn into his chambers. So guys, you've been drawn into his chambers. And so if Revelations 1:6 says he has made us kings and priests, and the only people who could enter the Holy of Holies were priests, you have to understand, there's a mentality you have to grab. You get what I'm trying to say? If Revelation 1:6 says he has made you kings and priests, he didn't just only say priests. Kings have a mentality of abundance. What I mean is, when Queen Sheba came to visit King Solomon, even if King Solomon owned a lot of wealth, Queen Sheba carried a gift, because kings give, royalty gives. So when you go in, I'm sure many of you are struggling with, how can this be? This is not true. And no, that's the whole thing. Now he has made you a king and priest. So when you come with the kingly mindset that, hey, there's abundance of grace, there's abundance of wealth, there's abundance of righteousness, there's abundance of love, and there is abundance of understanding and revelation to hit your spirit and understand that he has drawn you, and the righteousness you have is not yours. The peace you have is not just yours, it's for the Lord. Like, just replay that example I've given of you drowning into an ocean. The water is drowning, you're going to get wet. It's not you making yourself wet by your own work. No, the water around you is making you wet. In the same way, God around you, the love you're shedding is because you've entered into his bosom. It's like how you enter a room and it's filled with, maybe, let's say, nitrogen. I don't want to lie, you guys, but you just come out. Like how let me give this a bad example. But sometimes when when you walked around, when you walk into smoke, you come out smelling like smoke most times, and so you just feel irritated. You have to change all the clothes. This is the same thing. God drew. Now, for smoke, you enter temporarily and then you come out coughing. But for God, he has drawn you into his chambers. Song of Solomon 1:4. And you are still there forever. That's your permanent dwelling place. And he that dwells in the secret place of the Most High shall abide under the shadow. You are abiding. You've stayed. You've been planted. You've been grounded. So the love that comes out of you is of God. The peace that comes out of you is of God. The joy that comes out of you is of God. The finances that come out of you, yes, they are of God, because he has rubbed himself over you. He has drawn into you. Like, what I see is like, it's like his amorphous, he gets you and then he has drawn you into his and then he sort of like just presses you inside him and then you just sort of completely lose yourself and vanish with him. So remember the next time, even like no one comes in 2 Corinthians 5:21 and says he made him who knew no sin to become sin for us, so that we could be called the righteousness of God. That's how you became the righteousness of God, because God drew you in. Hallelujah. God drew you in. And so it's not about your own working to please God. It's not about your own working to be holy. No. God invited you, God drew you in, and every act of holiness you are doing is by his actions and not yours, is by his doing and not yours. And your holiness is just not by works, but you have to receive it by faith, because if he has drawn you in and you believe it, that means you are in him and he is in you. And so you're going to illuminate holiness. I hear holiness. I don't know what holiness, the picture you have about holiness. Maybe you can read about holiness or Google about it, but then I'm just picturing you've entered, like sin cannot dwell, sin cannot stay where you have been drawn into, because there's a lot of holiness right there. There's a lot of righteousness right there. So the chains of pornography are breaking, the chains of masturbation, the chains of lust, all the bondages are breaking, because you've been brought into a place where the things cannot exist. It's just so much holiness into his chambers, where the angels and the elders are casting their golden crowns. Like things, poverty cannot stay. It's too much holiness. It does not understand how to be in such an atmosphere. Wow. So God bless you guys. That was the word we had for today. Remember that it's his and not yours. It's his and not yours. It's his and not yours. He's everything, just manifesting like fruit of everything, every good work, every good thing, even tithing. Yes, it's going to become easier for you because he has drawn you in and he is in you and you are in him. And so it's him doing all the work. You are crucified with Christ. It's not you who lives, but then Christ lives in you. It all begins by understanding that you've been drawn into his chambers. So Heavenly Father, thank you so much for this word. Thank you that the interest of your word brings light. And it makes that, it gives understanding to the simple, making them wise. Thank you that everyone who's going to listen to this is wise, and they are blessed, and they are living holiness. They're living a holy life with ease, by faith, with ease, but not because of their actions, but by faith. So God bless you. God's got you. Stay tuned for more on Biggie's Gospel Show. Bye.